Hey guys, this is Justice Collins, and this is Kicking It with the Collins. So today, what we're doing is I'm going to be sharing my testimony with you guys. I think testimonies are very important because it really gets to show just really how good God is and what God has brought you from in your life and where God is bringing you to now. So we're going to just share our testimonies. I'm going to share my testimony with you guys, but I want you guys to like, comment, and subscribe. It's very important that you guys make sure that you comment right down below. Let us know what other ideas, what other videos that you guys are interested in, and we can bring them to you. We definitely want to make sure our channel, first and foremost, is all about giving glory and honor to God through faith, love, and encouragement for you guys. So in regards to my testimony, I really had a different kind of upbringing than my wife. I was raised in a two-parent household, which is a blessing, which is something I'm grateful for. I'm so honored to have a mom and a dad that was in my life. They're still in my life. They actually have been married for the past 33 years. So I was really blessed and honored. I don't take it for granted that I was able to see what a true Christian marriage was about. My pops was definitely in my life, you guys. He definitely was very involved in my band practices and baseball practices and basketball practices. Even when I wanted to play football and regretted it, but I wanted to play football, and he was there with the cones out doing all the drills for me just growing up. So I got a chance to see that dynamic, which was pretty dope in my opinion. But my brother and I, we had a good upbringing with a mom and a dad, and definitely seeing what a good loving marriage was about. We weren't perfect, you guys. There were still struggles. There were still problems in the household dynamic. There were still things that me and my little brother witnessed that were troubling. We, as a family, we were very close. It was just us four. Me, mom and dad, and my little brother. But that still caused tension in the household because we weren't very open and honest with each other when we needed to be. My little brother and I, we held a lot of things in. We were not very expressive with things that was going on in our life. And my mom and dad, they tried to create an environment that was kind of conducive to us being open. Brother, we just didn't feel comfortable sometimes. We were very scared growing up. We were very timid growing up. My mom and dad, they tried their best to raise us to be Christians. And you know that's really different growing up in middle school and in high school. There weren't a lot of two-parent household that were raising their kids up in the Christian community. And I think me and my brother, we were so focused on trying to fit in that we totally lost sight of God and what God was doing in our life and through our parents. So growing up in middle school, guys, I struggled personally with people pleasing. People pleasing was a big thing for me. I kind of wanted people to look at justice in a good and positive light so much where I wanted to people please, and I also wanted to fit in. I was focused on doing whatever it took. I was so focused on listening to other people, falling into peer pressure, that I wanted to fit in, and I wanted to do whatever it took to fit in. How that looked was, trying to portray a different lifestyle than I actually was living at home, that was fitting in with the wrong crowd, that was doing a lot of lying about, maybe a type of girl that I supposedly said I was with and I really wasn't, that was dressed in a certain way. I grew up in a Catholic middle school, so, we had uniforms each and every day, and the people pleasing was so bad, and trying to fit in was so bad with me. As soon as I get out the car and mom and dad would drive off from dropping me off at school, untuck the shirt, pull the pants down a little bit to try to sag and try to look cool and try to fit in. That's because I didn't really know what my true identity was. I felt like my true identity, which was just being a polite and respectful young man, I felt like people was going to bully me. I felt like I wasn't going to fit in. I felt like I was going to have zero friends if I actually behaved like in a respectful way. So in turn, that caused me to act out in school, that caused me to act out in the classroom. I was a pretty smart young man growing up, but even then, growing up in middle school, being smart was looked down upon. Being smart was considered you was a nerd, you was corny, you was weak, you didn't get any girls. So I felt like I had to kind of suppress me behaving in school. It caused me to suppress doing good in the classroom. It caused me to act out in order to get popular. It caused me to misbehave in class because all the other kids was misbehaving and they was looking kind of cool, you guys. They was looking kind of cool in my eyes. The girls liked the bad guy. The girls liked the class clown. So that caused me to act out in middle school. So I was a pretty much one way at middle school and a different way when I would get home. So transitioning right before high school, I was a part of a Bible believing church. I was pretty much raised in the church. Mom and dad definitely made sure that for the most part, every Sunday you was getting up, you was getting dressed, whether you liked it or not, and you was going to church. So I was still able to experience God at my church. I was surrounded by other kids as well with children's church. And mom and dad definitely made it a staple to raise me and my little brother up in church. You was going to hear about God. You was going to hear about how much God loved you. And you were going to be surrounded by other kids that got the same teaching as you did. And it was actually at a tent revival that my church had. The tent revival was pretty much a service outside of the church in the parking lot where people in the community could come to the same church and they could experience God through praise, through worship, through songs, through dance. And pastor would come up and he would give a great sermon about whatever was going on in that time that could relate to the people who went to the church and also the outsiders who would hear the tent revival and they would come to the service as well. This was a very important moment in my life because I actually got saved at this tent revival. It was something that was said by my pastor. It was the overall vibe of the tent revival. I felt so much love. What meant the most to me was how God spoke to me outside of the church at the tent revival. And I do believe that your salvation can be done anywhere. It doesn't have to be at a church. It can be anywhere that God can speak to you because you know we serve an omnipresent God. And my whole experience with coming in contact with God was amazing, you guys. After the tent revival, I was in the car just crying. I couldn't hold my emotions in. I tried to. I was crying and screaming out to God. I was telling God thank you. But at the same time, I was telling God sorry. I was telling him how much I do apologize for just rejecting him, even though I was a kid, just being stubborn, trying to fit in, trying to do whatever it took to make friends. And I was crying out to God, telling him thank you, thanking him for giving me another chance, even as a kid. So that was a very important part of my life. So transitioning into high school, still kept living the way I wanted to. That people pleasing was still deep inside me, guys, where I still wanted to do whatever it took to make friends. I still wanted to fit in with the in crowd. Still wanted to make sure I was a part of a sports team, just so I look cool, just so I look popular. So I was still trending in the same way after high school. But in the back of my head, knowing that I was different, knowing that I was raised differently for a reason, knowing that God was inside of me for a reason, knowing that I was living and walking in the wrong path. So boom, transition into college was a very important part of my life as well, you guys, because I really felt like I was maturing and being a young man. I really felt like that tug on me to really be who I was called to be, the polite, the respectful man of God that God called me to be. I really felt like I needed to walk into that. And you guys know that college is a different experience. You have people, you know, of all walks of life in college. Different type of faiths and religions are talked about in college. So I did make sure when I went to college that I try to surround myself with Christians, with believers, to stay in community with other people so that I don't get too caught up into the wrong crowd. I wanted to make sure, okay, before I go over here, let me make sure the right way is done first. Let me make sure I find other people, other Christians first, before I just go out and do what I wanted to do. So I was coming into college double-minded. I was straddling the fence of good and bad. Straddling the fence of wanting to be a Christian, wanting to love God, but still loving the world at the same time, and wanted to have fun per se in the world, and wanted to experience that point of life. So I wasn't too sold into God coming into college. There would be times, you guys, where I would get into a good Bible study. God blessed me with somebody who was in charge of our Christian Bible fellowship at college, invited me over to Bible study. I would go to the Bible study. I'll be leading Bible study. You know, I feel like that's where I belonged. I was walking in my purpose and praying for other people and bringing my friends and my dorm mates to Bible study. Right after Bible study, back into the old way of life, back into the party to go to right after Bible study. Right after I just led Bible study, right after I just prayed and supposedly brought other unbelievers to Christ, I'm over here still going to the club. I'm over here rushing my process with God so I can go out and have as much fun as I wanted to. Still straddling the fence. Had my good believing friends over here, had my unbelieving friends, football team, people who partied Wednesday through Friday, straddling the fence. Didn't really know who I was. And that took a toll on me because that people pleasing just escalated because I didn't know what my identity was quite yet. So while I was still straddling the fence, I would have thoughts that would play in my head even while out drinking, sipping lean, out at the club. I would have slight thoughts going through my head, you guys. And I will always think, is this all to life as it's cracked up to be? To be honest, I would be literally dancing in the club, having a good time, and just thinking, I would literally be in the club thinking, is this all there is to life? There has to be something more than partying, than getting drunk, wasting your money, waking up with hangovers. There has to be something more to this, you guys. I would get constant thoughts of really displeasing God when I would go out. While I was out at the club, I would really begin to get thoughts and feelings that I believe now came straight from God, just thinking if this was all that life is cracked up to be. If this partying, this dancing, this getting drunk lifestyle is something that was meant for me. And I became very numb to the idea of straddling the fence. I had to choose a side. I had to choose. Every time I would go out, after the fact, it would get tough on me because I felt like I was shaming God. I felt like I had to choose one, but I didn't want to. Both felt good at the time. And I had to think, you guys, I had to really come into contact with myself and think, do I really want to keep doing this? Do I really want to keep faking it? Because all I was doing was being hypocritical. All I was doing was faking it, was looking one way in front of people and looking another way outside of the Bible study. I do believe God began to speak to me. And I had a love for dancing. I had a love for music. I had a love for movement, where I wanted to use my dancing and my love for music to worship God. So I began to fall more and more in love with taking something that was secular, taking something that was considered worldly, and using that gift of dance and movement to God. And long story short, my dad ended up bringing me over to something that's called Gospel Mind. I fell in love instantly with Gospel Mind. I felt like this dance form, this art form, is meant to glorify and honor God through your body movements. Fell in love with it, started practicing. Anything I danced to, anything I touched, wanted to be in glory and honor and focus to God. So I took it serious. And as I began to grow in my dance skills and I began to grow in this mind form that was different and cool at the same time, I realized I had to grow spiritually as well. And in order to grow spiritually, you got to sacrifice something. In order to get closer to God, you got to sacrifice something. And I had to choose. And the more and more I kept living in my sin, the more and more I realized that I needed to get out of my sin. The more and more I realized that God was tugging on me in the club, drinking, having fun. God was still speaking to me in the club. God can speak to you whenever.
What age were you when you finally decided to start taking mime seriously?
I would say I really took mime seriously a few years after college. I would say 22, 23. I really took it seriously. And what that looked like was wanting to practice each and every day, wanting to actually read my Bible and go to church so that I can grow spiritually in order to feel good when I'm up there dancing and praising God through the mind. Because I knew I was holding myself back if I was still focused on mine, but yet living a lifestyle that wasn't conducive to God. So I had to take it seriously. I had to choose. And I knew that God was always there for me, and He always put me in different opportunities. He put me in different experiences to choose Him. And now, coming out of all that people pleasing, coming out of all that trying to fit in, I'm walking more and more of my purpose as a man of God. I'm unashamed for God now in my life. I'm actually using my platform of Gospel Mind to save souls, to speak to people about how God and how Jesus Christ really does love you and His arms is open to you. I'm definitely focused on being included in my church and trying to use my gift of speaking, teaching, and dance to inspire the youth and to inspire other people. And I definitely want you guys to know that your testimony will speak to you, but your testimony will also speak to people out there as well. And that's what we wanted to do today, is to show you the true love of Christ. And even now with being a husband, it's amazing because God will take you through different things to grow you and to mature you for your blessing in the future. So I pray you guys were blessed and inspired, even touched by this video. And again, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know what other videos you want us to touch on in the future. And y'all have a good one. Peace.